Good evening, Canatortus Capital, nightly strategy podcast for Saturday night, November 12th, 2022. This is the weekend swing trade report and frames. We'll start as always with Chi Wing Chong's review of the 30-period regression line slope, the Z-scores. And we're seeing that finance is still leading the way up on this little surge with the Z-score over 2. Materials are looking good. Energy starting to give back. Tech is beginning to accelerate, and I would expect to see that assume a leadership position. The fact that it's below Z-score of 1 says that there is room for both the S&P and tech to continue the surge. I would expect to see them, the tech companies, to take over leadership from materials and finance, which are fully priced right now, it looks like. Comparing the defensive sector XLP, you can see that is starting to slow down at the same time that discretionary is starting to accelerate. And so this looks like a shift from defense towards offense. Defense has done its job with a Z-score over 1.5. And now discretionary, coming just off the 0 line, is in a position to assume leadership. So this looks to me to be favorable conditions for a shift to the growth mindsets. Okay. All right, we're going to look at the trade frames now. Let me scale this up. Much appreciation to Ken H. for his hard work here. Starting with Chevron. We see he had a quick scratch. Then here was a double bottom. There was an SSC not taken. This is a COTA 2 that is taken, and it really resembles an emerging dragon because he waited for it to exceed the swing high, and now he's got a second position in on the R10 wiggle, and it closed very strongly. So here's what that looks like on the 30-minute charts. This held pretty well. If it gets above 186.55, I would be very quick to bring my stop up above the entry here because I'm going to make that second position locked in. This was a little bit of a tactical pause. The last 2 times that it did that, there was a sharp sell-off in both cases, and this run has been so good that I'm concerned about a pullback to like 165, and that's why I want to sneak this up. And if it starts to fail immediately, I think I'd be ready to get out of this one at scratch and lock in this gain. That's just me. It just feels like energy is fully priced right now. ExxonMobil is really the same pattern. It broke to a new high, well clear of the previous. This is actually stronger than Chevron. Here was a quick scratch. Here was a loss, stop and reverse, another a short position. He waited for the emerging dragon on this one. The first one didn't work. The second one did. This one's deep in the money on both of those positions. Again, as soon as I could, I'd try to get this second position to no lose plus dinner for 2 and take it from there. So really the same pattern in both of those. Freeport Moran in the materials space. You can see the resurgence out of the congestion level on the weekly. That's a really strong move. It's coming up into a natural resistance around 42. This is a really nice position. I think I'd have it locked into about the 1 bar low. Oh, you did. Oh, close 2/3 here. I like that play. Now the 1/3 keeps you with skin in the game. If it gets above 39, I think you can play it back towards 42. But I like the idea of capturing some gains, especially because we've already seen a couple signs of weakness on this already. So I really like that play. I'd be ready to add those 2/3 back on. You could almost persuade me that you could put not only the 2/3 that you closed, but an additional one position, so a 1 2/3. Like if you wanted to be aggressive on this, if it got above 39, with the idea being that if it clears 39, then all the worry is gone, and there's no resistance in here at all until it gets to the peak of the dragon at 42. So I could almost make that a case to put on 1 2/3 positions. Depends how aggressive you want to be with that. I would have to see the materials really outperforming the broader market on that one. All right, this is U.S. steel, and we just see how wildly oscillating this has been on the weeklies. We've had a couple nice Kata 2 moves up, and this thing is fully vested here, well above the resistance level. Very strong close. The next target to me is right about here, about 24.75. I could also see 25.50. So you got room to go. I think having one position on is legit. I'd probably lock in my stop right about here. I suspect your stop was about there. I think I'd move that up so that I could lock in that little gain right there. Because that was a pretty vigorous move to the upside. Now we know that it can do that based on what we saw here, and here, and here. This thing can really zoom, but I want to lock in the wins from 23. Nucor Steel, kind of the same position, same pattern, only he was quicker to take that gain here. This was possible inside here, but with your position on U.S. Steel, I don't mind that at all. I think I would just compare Nucor versus U.S. Steel, and I would pick the one that was doing better. I don't think you need both of those to take advantage of this. The one advantage on this one is that it's already at peak. Around 140, that's this hump here, 145. You're not going to see any resistance to 155 and 165. So this actually has some real clear upside. So if you opted for Nucor instead of U.S. Steel, I would not be offended. SunPower. This is one of the clean energy guys. Here was his essentially an SSC on the daily. He had the harsh winter, hits the piece, so his risk is like there, 1650, right? So that entry there has a risk box like this. It's holding up very well. He took the exit here near resistance, and it was a bad closing bar, so he decided to get flat for the weekend. I really like that. Now I think you're ready out of this box. If there's any kind of upside, I think you can rejoin it with the idea of getting to 25, which is this. And then if 25 works, it's free until about 27 or 27.50, as you note. Yeah, this is probably resistance right in here, 27. So there's room to go from 23 to 27 for sure. So I like a re-entry if it resumes. You might want to wait till it gets above 23.50, but in my view, if it starts moving already and the market is good, just take a look at PBW. If that's also up, I would just jump right back on it. On the other hand, the short side trade is intriguing, getting you back to about 18.50 or 17.50 if you saw broad weakness. And if PBW was weak and this was weaker, I think you could play a tactical short on that one. But I think I want to be in the direction of the broader market tomorrow. There's going to be enough optimism for that to work. I think this is one that's going to go. Tech has cleared the the resistance lines here. It's cleared all that junk, and the next resistance is 305. So I think you got 13 or 15 bucks worth of upside on this one. I like that one. I think it's going to go. Microsoft. This was the big winner in the last 2 days. Conventional tech was better. So XLK was better than the Qs. And so XLK is your older school S&P tech companies like Apple and Microsoft and Intel. And then Microsoft was the best of the best. So this little SSC just crushed. And now, okay, he pulled the pin here, getting back in at 250. I like, because that way you can see if there's any shenanigans in the morning. But, if it gets above 250, take a look at this on the daily. That is free and clear. If it gets above 250, it gets to 260 without any trouble at all. And so I almost want to put 2 positions on, because if you hadn't exited here and it was working, you'd feel okay adding a second position here using this as market's money. So I think you could put 2 on and get right back on that horse. And there's a lot of room left on the weekly and dailies for this to really be the leader. And that's the safest tech bet that there ever was. Except for Honeywell. I just love these guys to death. And I'm glad to see you got on board him. He's good to go. I would wish in another life that we could get more of these, but Honeywell is just a keeper for the long term, well above any resistance in recent memory. And now 224 and 220 and 224 are in sight. That thing's just rock solid. Not glamorous, just ready to go. McDonald's, I like the effort on this one. It had cleared the ED. We had some momentum to the upside. I think that's a good save. I would be ready to get right back on board and play back to 280. If we see market solid and McDonald's better, I think that's you can get back in, and mostly because it's at all-time highs. You got no resistance whatsoever. And that's something that every fund manager has to own. Merck, an intriguing one here, because we're holding at support levels that have supported this kind of this oscillation. But we're going to find out if this breakout has any legs, or if that was just the shooting star and failing. Because if that breaks below 97, it's going to get back to 94 and 90 pretty darn quick. So let's keep an eye on United Health and XLV Healthcare, the sector spider, and a big broad Dow 30 guys. So keep an eye on Merck here. Farms feel vulnerable to me as more and more information about their lying, cheating, and deceiving about the vaccines comes to pass. I would not be surprised to see some clawback in their near-term legal future. Target in the retail space. So it has cleared this congestion zone, has not yet gotten above 175. So that looks very promising. And if that can go, then really this is all free and clear. There is no resistance whatsoever. And if you look at this long term enough, you would definitely see this as a COTA 2 break, just starting the breakout. And this is that long slog back towards 230. So I think and going into a Christmas season, this might just be the time. I really like that one as a stealth retail play prior to Christmas. I think there's going to be some relief holiday seasons. I wouldn't be surprised to see this be the greatest holiday shopping season ever in terms of just dollars. There's so much free cash floating around right now. Coinbase just got slaughtered. I like the stop and reverse as a bold, brave play, but man, this is no place for a nervous person. I think I want to get my stop here at 55. I like adding a second position here and try to take advantage of that, hoping that it gets into this like 67 range. Once it gets in there, I think that's going to stall. So, let your conscience be your guide. That's for the brave of heart. Bitcoin, wow, just pure tactical play, intraday only to me, but very reliable for that reason. And I'm not framing that as a swing trade, not on your life. Semiconductors, I really like them because of a resurgence maybe of the economy now that we're through, through the election. This is such a great entry on that little COTA 2 bounce at 200, and you're at 220, so you're already 10% to the upside. I could certainly add a second position here. That's minor resistance to 230. Real resistance is here around 240 or the peak of the dragon. So I think there's a real tactical play all the way up to 245, 250, and then it gets interesting. So that's just recovery out of the big sell-off. So you don't even see real resistance till 245 on the weekly. So that looks good. All right, looks real good to me. We'll get this published and processed, and we'll see the Euros tomorrow morning, and the U.S. guys for True Storytelling for Creativity tomorrow night. Take good care. Or Monday night, I should say. Take good care and see you tomorrow.